Right now I'm sitting underneath a fig tree in my backyard. And one of the reasons I love trees, and this one in particular, is because it produces delicious, tasty fruit. And that makes me happy because it tastes delicious. But another thing about trees that I love is that trees illustrate the lack of boundaries that exist in our world. We've been trained to think through the way our mind works and the compartmentalization that our brain has become fixated with, that we can look around and see isolated things. See, the grass or that bird or that cloud or that plant over there or that bird up in the tree. You think that we can see all these things and label them as a separate entity. But this labeling and partitioning is truly a falsehood of our mind. And we need to begin to look at that philosophically in order to start living it in a true way. And we can look at it philosophically perfectly with this tree. Because if you look up at this tree, there are its leaves and its branches stretching out into the sky. And through the miracle of photosynthesis, sunlight is hitting those leaves, and it is exchanging the air, the carbon dioxide and oxygen cycle, creating more leaves and fruit and more branches, totally intimately connected with air, sunlight, water, and the soil that it grows into. And when you look at the soil down at the base of that tree, you start to realize that its roots run into the dirt. And they grow smaller and smaller until they're just barely little tiny hairs reaching into the dirt. And it's sucking the minerals and the moisture up out of the ground and turning it into tree. And taking the air and taking the carbon out of the air and turning it into trunk and turning it into leaves, turning it into fruit. And it also provides a refuge for somebody like me, or the birds that fly into its branches to escape the heat and to eat some delicious figs. And then they eat those figs, which are transmuted light and air and water and ground, and it becomes their body. And it becomes their songs, it becomes their chirps, and it becomes their lives. It becomes my body, becomes my voice, becomes this video. As I eat those figs, and as I sit under its shade, and as its light reflects off its leaves and its trunk and makes it into this camera, which makes it into the internet, onto YouTube, and into your life. And that tree becomes a part of you. Trees are a wonderful illustration of how interconnected things are, and that through everything there is no true boundary. And at the same time, how impermanent they are. And that this tree is always changing, and that with the winter time its leaves will fall, and it will drop its fruit, and its fruit and leaves will decay and become part of the ground as insects break them down and become dirt and broken down carbon that will enter back into that tree someday. Or perhaps those bugs will be eaten up by those birds or some other animal and become part of their body. And on and goes it goes. Nature highlights impermanence and interconnectedness in the lack of boundaries so well. But in our concrete structures, in our partitioned worlds, we forget that. We forget to see it. But nature can teach it to us. Through the flowers that bloomed, to the figs that formed, to the molecules in my body, you can see how it's a part of us. And that's scientifically provable. There's no magic mojo, no voodoo thing going on here, no strange pagan idea. This is applicable to any religion, to any creed, to any faith. This is how life works. You are no different than that tree. You eat, you drink, you breathe, you connect to everything around you. You are just like the tree. There is no boundary, no permanent boundary between yourself and the world. And that's a profound thing to realize.